ATF raids, meth labs, weapon stashes, and federal indictments. The Devil's Disciple MC has been called one of the most dangerous and secretive outlaw motorcycle clubs in America. But what's the truth? How did a club founded in the 60s in California end up in one of the biggest federal crackdowns on outlaw bikers, Operation 1%er? Why did the ATF claim they were running a multi-state criminal empire? And if that's true, how did they survive it? And here's the biggest question: how does this club still operate today, even after years of FBI surveillance, RICO cases, and nationwide raids? Let's get into it.
We run the night, we run the night,
The Devil's Disciple MC was founded in Fontana, California in 1967. This was a pivotal era for outlaw motorcycle clubs. The Hells Angels were rising in California, the Outlaws were running the Midwest, the Banditos were expanding in Texas, the Pagans controlled the East Coast. The Devil's Disciples entered this landscape not aiming for global dominance, but instead creating a tight, loyal, and disciplined club that would develop its own structure, rules, and influence. Unlike other MCs that quickly spread internationally, the Devil's Disciples focused on controlled expansion, prioritizing strength over size. Over time, the Devil's Disciple MC built this power base across multiple states, particularly Michigan, where they would later become a central focus of federal investigations. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding the Devil's Disciple MC is their unique spelling. Why is disciple spelled with one S missing? There are multiple theories on this. Some believe it was a simple misspelling in the early days that stuck. Others suggest it was done intentionally to separate themselves from religious affiliations. Like other outlaw motorcycle clubs, the Disciples wear a three-piece patch that identifies them as an independent club that governs itself. Top rocker displays the club's name, Devil's Disciples. Center patch features a motorcycle wheel with two crossing tridents. This serves as the primary visual symbol of the club. Bottom rocker displays the club region or territory. The small rectangular MC patch appears to the right of the center logo, reinforcing that this is a true MC, not a riding club or social group. The territory rocker is important as it signifies regional dominance and is a key factor in MC conflicts. The center patch of the Devil's Disciple MC features a motorcycle wheel with two crossed tridents. The motorcycle wheel represents the club's foundation and motorcycle culture. The wheel is a universal symbol of movement, freedom, and the open road, essential to the biker lifestyle. The tridents, these weapons historically represent warfare, power, and control, seen in ancient mythology where gods like Poseidon who wielded a trident as a symbol of domination over the seas. In the Disciples, the tridents are believed to symbolize authority within the club, readiness to defend their territory and members, as an MC with a strong independent color. Unlike many MCs that use red and white, the Devil's Disciples MC colors are blue and white. The number 44 has been linked to the Devil's Disciples for years. 44 carries a direct, specific meaning. The fourth letter of the alphabet is D, so 44 represents DD, Devil's Disciples. This isn't uncommon in outlaw culture. Many clubs and organizations use numerical codes to represent themselves, creating symbols that only members and those in the know truly understand. But here's the real question: what does it take to wear the Devil's Disciples patch? What does it take to earn your colors, move from a prospect to a full member, and stay loyal to a club that has been in the government's crosshair for decades? In comes Operation 1%er. In '85, the ATF began a program called Operation 1%er, a nationwide crackdown targeting outlaw motorcycle clubs for organized crime. While the operation involved multiple MCs across 18 states, the Disciples were one of the key clubs targeted, particularly their Birmingham, Alabama, and Arizona chapters. This operation led to the arrest of key Devil's Disciples leaders, including chapter presidents and members linked to firearms violations and narcotics distribution. Key arrests for the Devil's Disciples MC: Ron Douglas Neal, president of the Disciples Birmingham, Alabama chapter. Neal was one of the most significant figures arrested during Operation 1%er, taken into custody on March 19, 1986, along with Jacqueline O'Dusky, an associate of the club. He was indicted on firearms and narcotics charges. His arrest was part of a coordinated raid targeting multiple MCs at the same time. Real quick, if you enjoy MC culture content, smash the like and the subscribe button. Give me a pound wherever you're from. Get your Ghostavelli mask, shades, Demons Row snapbacks in all colors, tank tops, crew necks, track races. We got it all, and you can get it on www.demonsrow.com. Let's get back into it. John E. Bondi, member of the Disciples Arizona chapter, arrested on March 27, 1986 in Tucson, Arizona, was indicted on 5 federal counts. Bondi was suspended of acting as a weapons supplier for the club and assisted in covert firearms transactions between MC members. These arrests disrupted operations within the Devils Disciples, as both individuals played key roles in managing club resources, weapons distribution, and logistics. The scope of the operation, while the Disciples were a primary target, the ATF's larger strategy focused on dismantling networks between multiple outlaw MCs. Other clubs affected by the operation included the Hells Angels, Minneapolis chapter. President Patrick Matter was arrested on firearm possession charges. Outlaws MC, Nashville chapter. President Charles Simpson was arrested for silencer and firearm possession. Banditos MC, Arkansas chapter. James Atkins was arrested on drug-related charges. The connection between these clubs and the Devil's Disciples was a key aspect of the investigation. Federal agents believe that outlaw MCs, including the Disciples, were involved in illegal gun sales and narcotic transportation networks that extended across multiple states. Evidence seized in the case during the raids and arrests involving the Devil's Disciple MC. Federal agents confiscated dozens of firearms, including illegally modified weapons, ammunition, and explosives, large quantities of meth and coke, club documents linking members to interstate gun transfers, and vehicles suspected to be used for transporting drugs and weapons. The ATF classified the Devil's Disciples as a high-risk club, claiming that their activities extend beyond local chapters and involved in larger organized crime networks. The impact on the Disciples, the arrest of Ron Douglas Neal and John E. Bondi, marked one of the largest federal takedowns of the Devil's Disciples at the time. However, despite these arrests, the club did not collapse. New leadership filled the gaps. The Devil's Disciples remain active despite law enforcement pressure. While Operation 1% weakened some chapters, the club's decentralized structure allowed it to continue operating and expanding in the years that followed. The operation was meant to dismantle the Devil's Disciple MC, but instead it became another chapter in the long history of federal attempts to take down outlaw clubs. The club's ability to adapt and survive after major arrests has been a defining characteristic, showing that law enforcement crackdowns may slow down operations, but they rarely destroy outlaw MCs completely. But it did not end there. Between 2006 and 2009, the Devil's Disciple MC faced major federal investigations that led to high-profile arrests, leadership takedowns, and large-scale seizures. These efforts were aimed at disrupting their operations and reducing their influence. In November 2006, federal prosecutors in Detroit, Michigan, concluded a case involving members of the Devil's Disciple MC linked to unauthorized substance production. 2 full-patch members and 5 associates were taken into custody. Authorities alleged they were running a large-scale operation connected to a supply network. This was one of the first major cases in Detroit tied to this type of activity, which put additional heat on the club. While some club members faced charges, they did not dismantle the organization, and operations continued. In 2009, law enforcement escalated their efforts, leading to a coordinated federal operation against the Devil's Disciple MC. 18 individuals were taken into custody, including Jeff Garvin Smith, Fat Dog, national president of the Disciples, Paul Anthony DeRa Pauly, national vice president, Carrie Dale Van Diver, gun control, national warlord. RICO charges were filed, alleging club members were involved in illicit activities to maintain control and influence, unlawful distribution of controlled substances, possession of restricted items, interference with federal investigations. In the operation, they seized over 40 restricted items and 3,000 rounds of ammunition, 3 tactical vests, 12,000 in cash, 15 unlicensed gaming machines, 1,000 prescription tablets, and multiple pounds of plant-based substances. The goal of this operation was to target key figures within the Devils Disciple MC, disrupt their organizational structure, and reduce their ability to operate across multiple states. The impact on the Devils Disciples was a loss of leadership. The removal of high-ranking members created temporary instability. They also faced a loss of resources. With everything the police seized, they disrupted certain operations. These cases placed the Devils Disciple MC under even more government surveillance. Despite this significant federal pressure, the club continues to operate and remains one of the longest-standing outlaw motorcycle clubs in the U.S. today. Despite multiple federal investigations, raids, and arrests, the Devils Disciple MC remains active today. The club continues to operate in multiple states, maintaining secrecy around its leadership and structure. The government has repeatedly tried to dismantle the club, but just like other outlaw motorcycle clubs, they continue to exist and adapt. The Devils Disciple MC is a club that stood the test of time. Since 1967, they've built their name in the outlaw world, carving out their place while navigating decades of federal heat, arrests, and crackdowns. No matter how many times the government has tried to take them down, infiltrate their ranks, or dismantle their structure, the club has adapted, evolved, and survived. They aren't the biggest, they aren't the most publicized, but that's exactly why they're one of the most secretive, most resilient outlaw motorcycle clubs in America. So here's the real question: why does law enforcement continue to go after them? Is the Devils Disciple MC truly an underground empire operating in the shadows, or is this just another example of the government relentlessly targeting clubs that refuse to conform? One thing is undeniable: as long as there are men willing to ride, to wear that patch, to stand by their brothers, the Devils Disciple MC isn't going anywhere. The Devils Disciple MC is a club that has stood the test of time. Since 1967, they built their name in the outlaw motorcycle club world, carving out their place while navigating decades of federal heat, arrests, and crackdowns. No matter how many times the government has tried to take them down, infiltrate their ranks, or dismantle their structure, the club has adapted, evolved, and survived. They aren't the biggest, they're not the most publicized, but that's exactly why they're one of the most secretive, most resilient outlaw motorcycle clubs in the U.S. So here's the real question: why does law enforcement continue to go after them? Is the Devils Disciple MC truly an underground empire operating in the shadows, or is this just another example of the government relentlessly targeting outlaw motorcycle clubs that refuse to conform? One thing is undeniable: as long as there's men willing to ride, wear that patch, and stand with their brothers, the Devils Disciple MC isn't going anywhere.